This will be recorded, so you have the ability to go back and look at it. Also, you can go back for takeaways and keynote reminders. But I'm excited for what's going to take place over the next several months together as we build towards a $10 million division as a Leadership Academy team. What I am going to ask is just for general rules of engagement during these meetings. Make sure you've got something to be able to take notes with. You're going to want to be in a position where ideally you're somewhere quiet, and you're in a position to be able to send takeaways, feedback, and follow-up steps with your district manager slash pilot sales manager slash me. So make sure you're grabbing all your stuff. We're going to get started live here in about 7 minutes. So all the information is going to kick off here in about 7 minutes. But you want to be situated. So if you need to use the restroom, feel free to do so. If you need to go get something to take notes with, do that. You're going to want your calendars with you at this point too. You're also going to want to have access to our Google Drive folder, by the next time that we get together. So I'm going to give you guys some action steps when we leave this event, and follow-up steps that you'll probably just have naturally as you're talking to your manager. So I've got things live on YouTube right now. I'm going to send out the link for that. So that way we're good to go. And let's see here.
You muted?
No. All right, Brendan, how are you, man? Doing well. Google Drive link. I'll send that out. You won't need it for right now. I'm gonna upload folders to it right after we get off the call, and then I'll send it. And this will be the access to literally anything and everything. Some of the documents won't pertain. They're from 2009, 2008. Some of them are going to be current. What we'll do is we'll create folders for our local preps that we'll put everything in. So I'll have local preps, monthly preps, and then we have something called our big ass management binder folder, and that is basically all of our current programs that we use as a division. We update that one frequently as we're coming up with new enhancements and programs and growth objectives. So. But yeah, so we'll go ahead and just get started, a little bit early. First of all, I do want to welcome everybody to Leadership Academy. I know we're going to have people joining in for the next 4 minutes or so, but I can't think of a more exciting time to really be in our business. And right now, we're operating at a consistent growth, path. I mean, I think we've now been 10 to 30% growth every year as an organization since we opened the division in 2005 or 2006 is I guess when technically I got promoted. So 2006 to now, we've operated about a 10 to 30% clip every year. So we had 1 year that was a down year as we restructured our division. But other than that, I mean, it's pretty damn good, exciting. In fact, if you're an investor, I would say that you would be pretty bullish on our organization right now. My buddy that was at my bachelorette party with Caitlin and I. He's got a bull and a bear tattoo on his back. He got that. Shortly after he got his Series 7's license. I wouldn't recommend getting that tattoo. He likes it okay, but he's like, well, I guess I'm always a financial planner for the rest of my life now after this tat. But he always talks about stocks that are kind of hot stocks to buy, and he's like, man, he goes, I wish I could get my hands on some Vector and Cutco shares. Unfortunately for us, we are still privately owned. That makes it an availability for us to have amazing trips like Cancun that's coming up here in a couple of weeks. I know many of you guys have qualified for Cancun, and I'm fired up to help host that event. But it is, like I said, just a great time to be in our business. And so as a reminder, these meetings are really designed to be developing you guys to be the best versions of yourself. And we break it down into 3 different categories, specifically personally, professionally, and then financially. That's what we focus these personal growth, or I guess these growth initiatives towards being the best version of you. We'll break them up into more subcontexts like energy management and relationship management. And then with finances, it's, business growth, and then, financial wealth building in general. And then for personal development, it's just best practices and giving back to your community at large. So we do a lot of cool things throughout the course of the next 8 to 9 months together. We're also going to teach you how to run a business. And when I think about, the successful movers and shakers in society, they know how to run a business. There's a lot of really talented doctors out there that never really truly succeed in their field because they're doctors, but they don't know how to be great business people. Some of you guys have heard of Dr. Oz before, right? And Dr. Oz, well, he kind of gets, some people love Dr. Oz, some people hate Dr. Oz, but what I will say is kind of cool about Dr. Oz is he's become super wealthy and successful because he is able to do one thing better than almost anybody else can do, right? He's got a procedure that he does that's better than pretty much anybody else, and he gets paid to do that 30-second or 45-second procedure. He gets paid millions of dollars to be able to do that because he's branded himself in such a way where nobody else can do what he does. And then he's able to delegate other parts of his operations out, allows him to pursue other extracurricular things that he likes doing. He's got his own host, or show that he hosts online, but he got great at being a doctor first, and then he also learned how to run a business. So we're going to teach you guys that concept through Leadership Academy together. And so I do want to just first say that you are making a decision and a commitment today, and for the next several days, I guess I should say, next several months, to do things that other people just won't do, so that in the future you can have things that other people just can't have. I was reminded of just that beauty of that this past weekend. Again, during our bachelorette party that we had, we had a pool party that. Without going into so many details, we basically spent the equivalent of a Honda Civic to have a pool party, and it was pretty awesome. We had about 25 people there, and we locked down this section of a pool party that was being hosted at the Cosmopolitan, which is pretty much the nicest, trendiest, most modern casino and resort they have in Las Vegas. And what was cool about it wasn't the fact that we spent so much money. What was cool about it wasn't the fact that, it was a great party or that the DJ was awesome or any of that. What was really cool about it was that the people that were able to make that happen without actually any exceptions are people that run their own business in some way, shape, or form. Vast majority, by the way, Cutco people, division managers, high-ranking district managers. And that was a big crowd. The other people that were there in attendance, one of them was a former Cutco district manager who was a district manager for 3 years. He was a 3-time branch manager while he was at UGA. So he branched 3 times at UGA, and then now is a very high-ranking number, I think 7 employee for Terminus, which has corporate accounts with Salesforce and a bunch of other high-ranking Fortune 100 companies. And his wife is she's kind of a guru in the PR world, and so she helps, like when Delta raised the funds to keep the Martin Luther King Museum open during the government shutdown. She was the mastermind behind making that happen for Delta. She works for her own business at doing PR work. So they were there. Another individual, this buddy of mine that I met in 5th grade, who right out of college was not doing his own business, but then has now started to, and has started doing very well for himself, doing basically accounting assurance, right? So he goes back through and does, he checks to make sure that compliance is met with all the books and stuff like that before it even goes to like an accountant and other things. So he does no business doing that. I mentioned my buddy Everett. He was actually with Cutco when he was in college, when he was at UNC Chapel Hill with me, and then now he's a financial planner. He and his dad have their own office that he now heads up. And and then I'm trying to think the other groups. I mean, it was pretty much all Cutco related in some way, shape, or form, other than my buddy Brian. Now, here's the thing. There were a lot of other people that were actually invited to be in attendance at this event. But they weren't able to make it. They either weren't able to make it from a financial standpoint, or they weren't able to make it from just a pure schedule standpoint, right? They didn't have the freedom, the flexibility. And when I think about what it means to run your own business, or I think about what it means to be an entrepreneur, it means having control of your income, controlling of your independence, and controlling of your impact, right? Meaning being able to impact people. And I learned this in a sales management class that I took UNC Chapel Hill, and it was funny because as he talked about this, it's reminded me of why I loved being in business here at Cutco. It was one of the ultimate reasons why I chose to stay with Cutco out of college and become a manager, become a district manager first, and then eventually a division manager. It's because I could control my income, I could control my freedom, I could control my schedule, right? It was kind of cool that I could set my schedule up in such a way to be able to travel the way that I was able to travel. In fact, one of the things that you'll learn as you are in Cutco for an extended period of time is if you're with us through college, you'll probably have traveled to more places than your parents have by the time that you've graduated college. And if you came up in a very successful family where, chances are they run their own company, it may not be as much as they have, but it sure is more than they have at that stage in their life, right? And that's one of the cool things about being in business here at Cutco is that you have those freedoms. The freedom of income, right? Being able to earn as much as you want. There's not a cap or a limitation. I love my mom. My mom could never be a Cutco sales rep. That's not her personality. She's a pharmacist, and she's worked 3rd shift now for almost 20 years or so, 3rd shift, and then 40 years or so as a pharmacist. But her income is capped. Her income has now gotten to a place where, because of how long she's been doing it and how much she makes as pharmacist, they will no longer, no matter how well she performs, be able to give her a raise. In fact, they're trying to talk her into taking a retirement, early or as soon as she can, because, well, quite honestly, she's not in business for herself. So they want to cap it. They'd much rather hire somebody younger who maybe isn't as good, but they can pay her a lot less or pay him a lot less than what they pay my mom. And so I love the fact that any given time, either as a representative or as a manager, you can create your income. There's not a cap to how much. The company is not going to say, hey, we need you to sell less knives ever. They're not going to say that. They're never going to come to a career sales professional and be like, hey, we really don't want to pay you this much, so quit working, right? They're never going to do that as a manager. They're never going to tell you to stop developing people. They're never going to tell you to have your training classes perform better. So, you have that. And then the other thing, like I said, is impact. And impact is really the big thing that, you can make money doing a lot of different things, right? And I mentioned a couple examples of some of my buddies that were out there. But what I really love doing is impacting people at that grassroots level, right? As people go into their professional, decision-making career path, right? And, my buddy Chris has said it. Bry's talked about it multiple times. Everett, there's not a better thing that you could be doing during these developmental years of, basically 17 to 23, 24 than working with Cutco, because of the growth that you're going to experience at an early age and the responsibility that we're going to give you at an early age. That's one of the biggest things, right? You can go intern with other companies and all that, but the fact is you're not going to have the licensing. They're not going to let you take the reins. They're not going to let you meet with the decision makers like we do here. And what's cool about our business is you can get in front of those rainmakers whenever you want. You can ask for people that live in those baller neighborhoods, and you can do appointments there, right? As a recruiter, you can network with professional schools and private schools and talk about being the most influential person for them. I know that Mr. Kadori over at maybe Dr. Kadori over at Wesleyan Private High School has long said that Cutco has been the incubator for professional business success right out of school for a lot of his students. And that's what we do here. We help develop skills at an early age that people just don't teach in school. It's hard for them to get in school. Even at prestigious universities, it's hard for them to get it. And more importantly, we give them the practical applications to be able to use it outside of the classroom. So again, I want to welcome you and really talk about our vision as an organization. It is to build the most exciting and dynamic talent pool for the greater Georgia area of any company in the Southeast, right? And so that is our mission. It's also our mission to build this organization into being a $10 million organization. We develop great people. We take great people that are already great in many facets and help them become even better. We do that. We help do that through professionalism, high performance standards, personal growth and professional growth, and a culture of fun. Because that's what you need in order to develop, again, great people to become even better versions of themselves. So, what I am going to ask that as we go through each of these TLAs, that you're writing and taking notes on some of the material, but then more importantly, be able to do a debrief. And what I'm going to ask for on the debrief is very simple. And if one of you wants to throw this template into WhatsApp, you can do it. But basically what I'm looking for here, guys, I'm going to look for after this meeting, after this call, or whatever you want to call it, right? I want you to say, hey, what are the 1 to 2 things that you stood out the most to you? What are the 1 to 2 kind of nuggets or light bulb moments that stand out to you from this session? I'm going to ask for what are your 1 to 2 action steps? Okay, so moving forward, as you leave this event, what are the 1 to 2 action steps that you're going to take? So what are you going to leave into action with? And then also, what are 1 to 2 questions that you have for your manager to follow up on? Because here's the thing, guys, I'm going to teach the curriculum, but it is going to be more one-on-one or one-on-2 with me, you, and your manager to help you develop some of the curriculum that we're teaching. This is going to be interactive, meaning, this session will happen once a week, but there's going to be work done outside of this session that you'll need to do and you'll want to follow up with. And I will say the more you make of these sessions, the more exciting and promising they really are. You can really get a lot of good nuggets out of it if you dig in. And so that's why, you want to be somewhere ideally quiet where you could take these notes and be able to debrief on it. So a couple of administrative things that, I do want to make sure that you've just got in general, more so reminders, things to take notes on here at the beginning. One is you want to dedicate about an hour to debrief this or to follow up on your action steps. Now, some of your action steps may be a lot more, right? It may be like, shit, I really need to get my personal sales up so that I've got more money to start looking at moving and places. We start talking and developing these concepts. So that may take more than an hour, but at least an hour of reviewing some of the, the business specific stuff. A lot of times the other stuff will be somewhat quick, but again, you can deep dive into it as much as you want, right? So you can follow up more into it. So pick an hour that you have the rest of the week. So, okay, I need to put an hour here to follow up on this. The second thing is the calendar. Our first divisional event is going to be back here at the pilot office. It's going to be not this upcoming Saturday, but the following Saturday. So September 7th. That's going to be happening from 10 to 5. Okay. So 10 to 5 is going to be the session there. And guys, what we're going to be doing is from 10 to 2, it's going to be everybody. And then for those that are serious and curious about learning how to run a business, it's going to be from 2 to 5. So I recommend, if you're at all curious, some of you guys have already got your letters of intent and you're like, fuck it, I'm ready. Some of you guys are more like, I'm open, not sure. Some of you guys are like, nah, no way, right? That's fine. But I will say this, if you're at least open and curious, that'll happen from 2 to 5. And there are some of you that I've already pre-selected. You've already made yourself stand out from the crowd, either by getting your letters of intent in or playing a high role with us last year. And for those of you, there's going to be a special breakout for our next level group that's going to happen and take place during this meeting. So for those of you going through this for the first time, you're going to have, we're going to teach you the basics, right? Whereas for those of you going through this the second or third or fourth or fifth time, we're going to go through next level version of entrepreneurship and learning how to crush it, not just to run a Cutco business, but learning how to crush a Cutco business. So, and compete nationally like Dylan Lewis did last year, be one of the top 20 branches in the company. Still got a little more time left. I think, Grant, you're still in the running for that. It's a top 20 branch. So I'd love to see you secure that spot as well. That would be pretty impressive considering there's 40 divisions. To have 2 from one division in the top 20 in the nation means that we're doing something right here. So not everybody can be top 20, but it is a special recognition point for you. So other things, guys, is we're going to have the SLC push contest. That's going to come up. That's going to start starting early this year. So we're giving you more leeway for those of you that have crazy schedules. Because I know in years past, those that have had school, sometimes your schedule just doesn't allow for you to really participate as much. But what is nice for this year is it's going to start September 10th and go all the way to September 30th. So we have an extended push period for people to be able to take advantage and make their claim for their sales performance. And so that is something you'll want to follow up one-on-one with your manager on as far as, hey, what are your 1 to 2 weeks out of those 3 where you're going to go national, right? Where you're going to try to compete to be on the national sales report. That's what we're really looking for. But that's going to start on the 10th and go to the 30th. And we'll get prizes and performance and all that out to you early in advance. We are going to do a fun feast that's going to be associated. It's not going to quite be as epic as a VIP night for that we had over the summer. And some of you guys remember VIP night. That was a lot of fun. I know Big John had a good time. I think Big John's still yawning from being exhausted from VIP night. But it will be kind of a fun event that we're going to have for those that do step up. And so what I will say, guys, is whenever we give a level like that, whenever we give a performance measure, hey, if you hit this, you win this. Don't make that be something you're shooting for. Make that be like your minimum. It's like, okay, I'm definitely hitting that because I know that that's how Trey or the region or whoever is measuring success, right? So we'll talk more about that as we get a little bit closer to it. In fact, I'll have the results and prizes and stuff by the time we get together 1 week's time from now. Okay. So those are just some kind of admin updates. I want to talk a little bit about now as we transition into the growth standpoint, we're going to talk about personal growth a little bit. And in order to effectively manage other people, in order to effectively lead others, you've got to have personal self-awareness and emotional intelligence. Okay. And a lot of you guys have probably heard of the concept of IQ, right? For those that have never heard of it, IQ is an intelligent quotient. It's basically designed to measure how smart somebody is, right? And unfortunately, that IQ does not translate as well to success in the workplace, success in life, as society would at least measure success. It doesn't translate nearly as well as emotional intelligence or EQ. Right. And so to explain why, because society measures success in several different ways. They measure back in your biggest impact, right, that you have on your community at large. And quite honestly, intelligence doesn't necessarily translate to having a massive impact at your community at large, unless you're an inventor, right, or some sort of mathematical genius or some sort of computer science guru. which even then, there's a lot of people with high IQs that don't even know how to use a computer. So it's the application that becomes way more important than just having high IQ. In fact, there's a lot of examples of people with immense IQs that don't amount to anything, except for being really good at trivia, right? A lot of times they're good at that. But but what does translate is your ability to be self-aware of your emotions and ability on the impact they have on other people, and conversely, the ability to read other people's emotions and their intent. Okay? And that's what emotional intelligence really is. It's your ability to basically, know how to handle your own emotions. And one of the things that I will say is that our emotional side of our brains tend to really get us into a lot of trouble, right? And and so one concept that is a very simple concept that be worth jotting down and implying or really reminding yourself of is that when emotions are high, logic tends to be low, right? When emotions are high, logic tends to be low. Let's think about it. Okay, when you're angry and you're in a relationship, do you tend to say the smartest things to your significant other? Probably not, right? And I'm not standing here saying that I don't screw up. I'm the worst at this, right? Meaning when I'm emotional, when my emotions are really high, some of the stuff that I say is not really bright, right? And it's things that get me in trouble long term, right? That they're the things that months later significant others will remember you said, right? It tends to leave an indelible mark there, and it becomes hard to remove those. And I'm not talking about just relationships. I'm talking about family relationships, talking business relationships. If you act out of high emotion, some of the things that logically you would never say come out, right? When you get stressed out, right? Stress is an emotion, right? When your mind is stressed, the logic becomes really low, right? For example, right? You get stressed out during exams. What are some of the emotional responses that you have when you're cramming for exams and you get stressed? Some people get a tattoo. I've never seen that one, but people get stressed out emotionally, so they go get a tattoo during exam week. That'd be interesting to figure out if during exam week people get a lot of tattoos. But there's other examples, right? What are some other ones? What's that? You drop out. You get stressed out. You're studying. You're just like, screw it, right? And so then you don't even do what you normally would have done had you just logically said, okay, I need to try to learn as much as I can. What's another emotional response that some people have? What's that? Anger, right? They start blaming. They start, projecting it against their professor, right? It's like, oh, this professor, and you get so neg towards the professor that you don't even realize that their job is not to fail you. Professor's job is to try to get their students to do well in their class so they can advance, so that then, therefore, they get great, reviews and everything else. So instead of going to the professor for guidance and advice, they vilify the professor, which, again, intuitively, logically makes zero sense. If you're playing a game, you would want whoever controls the rules of the game to be on your side, not against you. But that happens when you get stressed out emotionally. What's another example? What? They start crying, right? And guys, I'm gonna tell you, there's way more important shit to cry about than a test that you've got coming up, or several tests that you've got coming up. In our business, there's way more stressful stuff than worrying about somebody being negative towards you in an interview, or on a text message, or on a Facebook message you sent out, or a customer that gives you a hard time on a phone call. Here's the biggest thing that happens when somebody gets highly emotional. They give power to things that aren't really that powerful and don't really matter and impact them long term in life. Another thing that happens when somebody gets highly emotional and then during exam week, they get stressed out, is they cram so much to the point where they end up pulling an all-nighter, which logically would tell you is probably not a really bright idea if you're trying to get a great grade, to stay up all night the night before and you have to take an important test. And so I kind of started learning this when I was in college. And so what I started doing, knowing that I was wired to get, wanted to get a great grade in every class I took, is I would pull my all-nighter or my cram session the night before my test. So if I had a test on Thursday, my cram session became Tuesday, because then that way on Wednesday night, I could get a little bit more sleep, wake up refreshed. And a lot of times I didn't know more material. I didn't study more than people before me did. But what I was better at was taking that test than other people were. I wasn't stressed out going into the test. I didn't second guess myself, because that's another thing that happens when you get highly emotional. Is you start second guessing every single thing that you do. Okay, so it applies well in school. It applies well in when you're in relationships, right? And it also applies really well to the business workplace, right? More often than not, people aren't trying to do something to you, right? Your emotions say that. Everything that happens, it's like a personal attack. Whereas logic would tell you they're just acting in their own best interest, because as creatures, we're designed to survive. And so again, remember, when emotions are high, logic is low. And so a lot of times what happens the first time you get a response or a reaction, okay, your first drop down is not your best reaction. Okay, so just think of your emotional responses as like a drop down menu. Okay. So when somebody comes to you with something, whether it be a significant other, a teacher, a friend, a family member, a business colleague, and they say something, and you start to be aware of your emotional response. Whatever your emotional brain is telling you to do the drop down and look at your options before responding. Think of it like a multiple choice question, not a yes or a no, right? Because a lot of times that's what emotion does. It's either I say this or I don't say this, right? And if you really are emotional, it's not much of an option, right? Like on Instagram, sometimes people put up those yes, no questions, and you could click on one. And a lot of times it's like such an obvious answer. It's like 97% say yes, 3% say no, right? When you're highly emotional, you're always going to do the dumbass thing, because there's so much energy behind that emotion that it doesn't necessarily allow your logic to sneak in. Emotion is a much more powerful motivator than logic ever is, right? It's why people, when we talk about teach people to sell, emotional selling is a way more powerful motivator than logic. When emotion, somebody says, "Oh, this is me," right? That's an emotional decision. Logic is, "Oh, let me think about," wait and sit back, So think about that processes as you get a question that comes up, because there is always that moment of choice that happens. Anytime anything happens, even addicts, right? There is always at least a split second choice that they make, whether to call their dealer or not to call their dealer, right? That may be that, but then once that thing takes over, I'm gonna call it. It's boom. It's not changing, right? Even though logic would tell them, don't do it, don't do it, don't do it, don't do it, right? There's always that split second decision that you have, and so during that split second, remember the drop down menu. Okay, what are my options here? Okay, and before you make the wrong one, think about the logical side. So remember, when emotions are high, logic is low. So anytime you're an emotional and you got this emotional decision you need to make, think of somebody you can counsel with that can help you walk through the logic of things. My advice is pick people that you respect. Pick people that have a life that you would want to live. Okay? Pick those people to put into your inner circle. Because what's cool enough, if you put them in your inner circle enough, your natural inclination starts to become more like people in your inner circle, okay? For better or for worse. But that's what happens. So when faced with a decision, do that. This is another concept of personal awareness, because eventually you can catalog decisions, right? And you can say, okay, I know when I'm in this situation, it tends to be tougher for me to make that decision. Why are we talking about this when we're talking about how to become a better leader? Well, the real reason is because if you don't know how to manage yourself, it becomes very difficult to know how to manage other people. Okay? I will say this. If faced with a choice, one of the most logical decisions to make is to try to err in the favor of helping others. Okay. So try to err on the side of helping other people and show appreciation to others, because if you do that, more often than not, it's going to help benefit you in the long run too. May not benefit you right in the here and now, but in the long run, it'll help you out, right? Let me give you a quick example of that, right? Customer at the end of the presentation says, yep, I'll buy the signature set, flatware chest, and boom, boom, boom. I don't care the price, right? Logic would tell you, or even emotion, right? It's like, hell yeah, I'm about to make a bunch of sales. This is going to be awesome, right? Emotionally, let me just not give anything for free ever on that situation. That might be the right call. But logic would tell you, okay, they're willing to pay for this. So what can I do to make sure that it's a win-win? Give them free stuff for giving you what? Recommendations, right? They're already down. So you don't emotionally, logically, you don't need to give them things free. But if you want them to feel really good, work with them on recommendations and hook them up, right? Go above and beyond. Because if you got a customer that's going to spend $4,000 or $5,000 without batting an eye, well, then think about how much their recommendations are going to be worth to you. Right? You can give them nothing for free and then fight to get recs. Because a lot of times, those are the people, by the way, the ones that drop $5,000, $6,000, that are the more gun shy about giving you recs. Why? Because they have the money and the means and the ability to just drop that amount whenever they feel like it. And so they're probably the ones that get hit up the most for stuff. They're the ones that, contribute a lot to their community, which test. Beautiful. They probably taught it to you in some, relationship capacity, dealing mostly with family and loved ones and picking the right mate, right? Or partner. This is not what we're talking about from a business context. What we are talking about is, showing appreciation so that it's well received, well deserved, and you're really making sure that you're going out of your way to connect in a deep way with people you care about. Okay. And so the five love languages, for those of you that are not familiar with them, and I would jot them down just that way you have them, and we'll send. Let's see, Dylan, if you want to, do you have the test that you can look it up real quick? Yep. Okay. And Dylan will actually post this in. Bless you. We'll post this in the WhatsApp group chat, so that way you can take the test. What we're gonna, what I would recommend that you take is just the general, test that you could take. It's really easy. It's a quiz, but here are the five levels or languages of appreciation, and we'll talk about those for a quick bit before transitioning into, some professional growth development, right? But the first one is words of affirmation. So words of affirmation, basically what that is, guys, is, saying words that build people up and are designed to show appreciation. So somebody, simply saying, hey, you know what, Andrew, I really appreciate the great job you did this summer, right? And what's funny is, for, there's, and the reason I picked Andrew is there's a lot of Andrews, right? And I could tell who has a little bit higher, a level words of affirmation in their love language, because the ones that heard that and they kind of started like, nodding a little bit more, right? They got a little more excited. It's like, hell yeah. Right. And so that goes a long way. For those that have very low words of affirmation, I don't mean anything to them. Like, all right, cool, great, appreciate it. They respect the fact that you said it, right? They don't mind hearing it, but it's not like it moves at their heartstrings at all. Okay. But words of affirmations is a big one. Another one, act of service, and acts of service, what that is, that's where you do something for somebody. Okay. So perhaps, ready? Helping your manager clean up the office after a team meeting, right? For somebody that has high acts of service, that goes a long way. Ready? Helping a representative put together their rec binder, That's an act of service. Those representatives who have high acts of service, they remember that more than any amazing talk you gave or any cool gift you give them, right? That goes deeper for them, okay? And some people have high acts of service, and they know that. Another one is receiving gifts. Receiving gifts. And gifts don't have to be some big elaborate, like, you know, present or something for Christmas or anything like that. I will say this: if you have somebody that's really high in receiving gifts, they tend to really give the coolest presents, right? Or at least they really like you really dig, those presents. What? See, here's the funny thing. Some of you guys like the swag that I give for gifts and stuff for Christmas. My receiving gifts is like bouncing on zero, right? And so what that means is a lot of time when somebody gives me a gift, I'm really bad at acknowledging the gift. I'm like, oh, cool, thanks. And sometimes the people that have a high receiving gifts score of appreciation, they'll tend to get butthurt sometimes about the way I react, and I have to remember, okay, they're high on receiving gifts. I really need to show appreciation. So a lot of times for me, the gifts I give are really designed to be more an act of service than they are like a gift, like a cool gift. It's designed to be something super useful, or at least in my mind, something I would use a lot or wear a lot or have, just it tends to be more on that realm because acts of service are really high for me. Okay. And so in the workplace, I will say, though, people that have high receiving gifts, they tend to give the coolest gifts, right? Just in general, right? Really thoughtful. They really go out of their way to make it a big production or a big deal. Some of you guys know Sam Knapp, right? And Sam Knapp is a great example of somebody who has a high receiving gifts. And so me knowing that, I always try to make sure that like the gifts I give are something where it's coordinated and stuff for him, because I know that that's a big value for him. Okay? Now, my acts of service are going to make it something useful for him, which is why his Christmas gift this past year was a great example of something that I know he would use a lot, or at least for a period of time he would use it heavily, right? So it's one of those things where when somebody has a high receiving gifts, that is something that in the appreciation, it's usually pretty easy to see that. In the workplace, they're the ones that get fired up if you offer to get them to buy them something from the grocery store on the way in. If you find that your receptionists have a high receiving gifts, and I would recommend, by the way, that you have everybody in your organization take this test, because what you'll find with them is that when you know what they appreciate, you can allocate your time in such a way that it's very productive. It's not manipulation. It's being a smart person, right? If you have a family, in the family, it's different too, right? You'll know that certain people, family members, quality time is a big thing for them. And so it's important that with that child, you allocate more time. Whereas with other children, it may be an act of service. And so going out of your way for that. Like I know, like my mom, she figured that out through raising me for, now 36 years, right? But when I was even through high school, she started to realize what I really appreciated more. And so rather than trying to spend a ton of time with me, she made sure that, things were taken care of that would help make my day-to-day life easier. Right. And not having to stress out about it. So whereas, for me, my, grades were super important. So she, gave me, things that enabled me to focus more on that. Right. So my mom was one of the very few parents that actually told their kids not to work as hard. Now I was wired differently that way too, but she was, she knew that I cared more about, grades and act services. So she would go, all right, Trey, like you don't need to work while you're in school and playing basketball and doing all this stuff. Like, why are you working? You don't need to do that. Whereas a lot of other parents are like, hey, you need to work. Right. So I chose to do so because I had other long-term goals, but again, that's something that, she acknowledged. Quality time, though, was something that was big for my sister. And so she made sure to spend a lot of time with her, going to things for her, being with her, that sort of thing. So quality time is literally the easiest to recommend because, they're the ones that always want to be around, right? And so quality time is something that They just appreciate getting downtime. And so with those individuals, it's important that when you are spending time, that you're literally detaching from other things, putting the phone away, making sure that, when you go to whether it be dinner or doing things, you're pulling them aside, and just asking them how they're doing, right? It's that time feels really valuable to them. Sometimes, like, hey man, I'm about to go to the grocery store, about to go to the gas station. Do you want to roll with me? Right? That feels more important to them than maybe any active service you give or gift you give. Okay. And then the last one is physical touch. And physical touch is one where, you're in the relationships, it's hugs and things like that. In the workplace, you got to be really careful about that. You can very quickly be written up by your superior or put on blast on social media for being a creep. So you got to be careful on that. But if physical touch is very high love language for you, it's things like fist bumps, high fives, shoulder bumps, whatever you want to call it. Like for me, physical touch is very high. It's my highest. And so because of that, that's where, I'll constantly, like I said, I'll nudge people, I'll fist bump people. I'll a lot of the contests and games we do involve things that involve physical activity or physical exercise. One of my favorite ways to connect with people is to take them to the gym with me or to go, do a physical activity together. And so there's ways that you could show appreciation in the workplace that really contribute to every single level. So again, you got to know what you are before you know what other people are, right? So I highly recommend, taking that test as a follow-up to figure out what you are. It takes you probably 10 minutes to take. Probably take it right after we get done here, right? But and we'll dig more into ways that you can show appreciation in the workplace on one of our Leadership Academy meetings, right? So that's something that's important for you to understand, is to show appreciation. Because when you show appreciation, what's exciting about it, whether it's personally or in the workplace, is it's impossible to be negative. It's impossible to be depressed, right? So showing appreciation is valuable because it doesn't conflict. Gratitude and appreciation are two emotions that when you express that, or exercises that you express, other things can't cloud it. Think about that. Let's say you're upset at a coworker for something they did wrong. If you come at it from an approach of wanting to show appreciation, they're going to take that negative experience much more favorably. Okay. Whether it be taking time, hey, look, I just want to spend time with you because I'm upset about what happened, and I didn't want you to do you disservice of just blowing you off, right? And you take that time, they feel good about that, or at least better than they would otherwise, right? Active service. Hey, look, this didn't get done the way it needs to be, so I want to partner with you moving forward to make sure that it helps, right? I want to double check your work. I want to help you with that, right? If somebody's got an active service that's not that high, they won't appreciate that as much. Sometimes consoling somebody, right? Putting your hand on their shoulder, if physical touch is high. Now, again, if physical touch is low, doing something like that freaks somebody out. So again, knowing what people are really goes a long way. Okay. So you'll probably have feedback questions on that, but I just wanted to review that first of all. Okay. With the next thing I wanted to dig into is concept of being a recruiter. And when somebody is a recruiter, there's really 10 reasons why it makes sense to be a recruiter. See, we're teaching you sales, but one of the first things we're going to teach you in the business side of things for TLA is the concept of how to be a great recruiter. Because they do go hand in hand. I know some people think, recruiting is the opposite of sales. No, it's actually, it's worked in congruency towards a common goal. Okay. And so there really is, 10 reasons that I've got here to becoming a great recruiter. The number one reason is independence. You have a lot of freedom. And there's very few things that have as much freedom as being the recruiter, because you're on the forefront of being able to decide who it is that you're working with. Okay? Think about it. If you're the captain of your team, captain of a college football team, you look at any great collegiate football program, the best programs are always the best recruiters. And when I say the best, I don't mean they win a national championship every single year, because obviously there's a lot of things that go into that happening, right? For example, one, you got to keep players around for long enough for them to make that impact. And especially in college basketball with the one and done culture, it's really hard to build a dynasty if every year you're losing and having to reload. But being a great recruiter is at the forefront of the top 20 teams year in, year out. College football, it's even a higher correlation, right? Because they get to stay in a program for at least 3 years before they can go to the league. And so, the best coaches are the best recruiters. The Sabans, the Dabos of the world, the Harbaughs, right? They're the best recruiters. And so because they're the best recruiters, they tend to be the people that have the best organizations. And part of what Jim Rohn talks about is to go from being good to great is you got to get, or built to last rather, is you got to get the right people on the bus, right? If you get the right people on the bus, your organization's naturally going to move in the right direction. That's why companies like Google and Facebook, they pour so much money of their revenue into recruiting and attracting the top talent. It's why the best financial organizations pour so much money into attracting the right talent. It gives you a lot of freedom and you have freedom to be able to put people in there. Okay. Second thing is variety. The second key to being a great recruiter, the second reason to be a great recruiter is having variety. And it's cool because instead of doing the same things, recruiters have the ability to work with all different types of people, right? Every single person they sit down. And that's one of the cool things about doing demos is every customer is unique. And I will argue that you recruit customers to Cutco, right? You're calling them, you've got to be, compelling enough for they're willing to listen to you, right? So you recruit people to the Cutco family. But I think that it's important that you understand that each candidate presents a lot of variety, and that creates freedom and fun, right? Third thing, major earning potential. Okay. What's cool about being a great recruiter, being able to be a great builder of companies, because all great, company builders are also great recruiters. They recruit people to the cause. The potential that you have is super high. There's an old phrase that says, if you want to go somewhere fast, go alone. If you want to go somewhere far, bring others with you, right? And so your ability to recruit a team, ability to recruit, is something that's critical towards your earning potential. Fourth, easy to get your foot in the door. It's easy to jump, laterally, right? Or, in some cases, jump ship, right? Go to other companies. Somebody's a great recruiter. They're a great attractor of talent. It makes it very easy for them to be in a position to jump because you don't need as many certifications. You just have your track record that you could point to. Okay. So it's easy to get your foot in the door. The fifth thing is you're on the cutting edge of technology. When somebody's great at recruiting, they're constantly at the cutting edge of technology. And what's cool, I don't see this anywhere better than in our business. The top recruiters in our company, they're the best at technology. And I don't mean necessarily like, they're up to date on how to write code and all that stuff, but they actually know how to use a lot of the programs that, the up and coming talent uses and is aware of. A lot of other companies, the concept of using Zoom is like, what? They don't even know about Zoom. The best recruiter companies, they know about Zoom. They know about WhatsApp. They know about, group chat. They know how to use, group sharing platforms. They know how to recruit effectively on social media platforms because they're great recruiters, right? And because they need to stay at the forefront of that. And so you're always at the cutting edge of technology when you're a great recruiter. Okay? Give you an example. My buddy who's a financial planner, he's barely ever on any social media account at all. Doesn't have Instagram. Doesn't use, Facebook. I don't think he's posted in like 5 years. And here's the thing though. One of his buddies that's crushing in that industry now, who was a builder of organizations, he is in all those things, and part of it was because when he first started in that industry, he was a recruiter, and so he just got more in tune and stayed more in touch. Here's another thing I love about that is as a recruiter, you're basically getting paid to help people. Okay. And that's something that is special because when you recruit somebody and they go out in a field and succeed, it's one of the most rewarding things that you can have happen. I do know that from a trainer perspective, it's kind of even next level version of that. But it's hard to be the guy training everybody or the gal that's training everybody unless you're the owner, right? But as a recruiter, you have a hand in that. In fact, I know to this day that many of the people that interviewed you still take a lot of pride in the fact that they were the one that interviewed you. It's like, hey, don't forget who interviewed you, right? Even if they weren't the one that trained them, they take pride in that fact. I know Michael Mullins still loves to remind me and everybody that'll listen that he was the one that interviewed Caitlin, and that was such a big deal to him, right? He didn't train her, right? He didn't coach her through, the 10K Alliance or anything like that. But the fact that he was the one that ran that interview meant a massive deal. And what's even cooler is the person that sent her the Facebook message where she responded and then came in, even though he's no longer in the business and it's now been 5 years almost, he still remembers that. And when I talk to the kid every once in a while, which is, again, probably only every other year, he reminds me of that. And so when you're a recruiter, it really is fulfilling when you see somebody go out and rip it. I guarantee you the people that recruit, the guy that recruited, Kyler Murray to come play college football, he remembers those conversations. So you get paid to help people. The seventh thing is you play a role in shaping top companies. The recruiters, they play a massive role. In fact, that's one of the singular most important decisions that people make as a CEO is who's going to be the head of talent acquisition and talent recruitment. Right? You get to help to shape the Googles of today, the Googles of tomorrow, and learning those skills here make a big deal. Right? The eighth thing, it's got big challenges. You're like, how is that a thing, right? Well, with no reward comes or zero challenges. I've yet to see if things worth having that came with zero challenges. In fact, the best things worth having usually have the most challenges. Think about the most fulfilling and happiest and longest lasting marriages dealt with a lot more crap than ones that didn't. Because it's longer, right? So there's more opportunities for challenges, because the truth is that, they don't become successful without overcoming adversity. Most successful people, CEOs, have dealt with more adversity than the people that just started with the company. Maybe not in their personal life, but they've dealt with more long-term. That's why a lot of times those uber successful people will talk about all their trials and tribulations. The Anthony Robbins of the world, the Grant Cardones of the world. So they always talk about their challenges as a way to inspire hope and confidence and motivate. They don't talk about all their successes, right? They eventually talk about it, but the compelling reason why so many people follow, because they are great recruiters, is because of the challenges they overcome. Right? And so that comes with, again, being a great recruiter. All right. The ninth one is you gain new skills. And I think that's really important in our role because you're going to gain new skills. In fact, what I'm going to send as a follow-up to this is how we pre and post interview our applicants. So the conversation that happens, I'm going to basically give you a video that shows exactly how to recruit an applicant that you're going to keep for an interview and one that you're going to excuse from an interview. And we're going to show you that. We're going to show you the pre, and then we're going to also show you how to congratulate and accept somebody to the team to onboard them the right way, because that's another big critical part of being a great recruiter is setting up the right expectations for them to succeed once they come into an organization. And there's going to be a follow-up video on how to, run an effective group interview too. But for now, we'll start simple with the pre and the post. Okay? The 10th one is allows you to build your network. When you're a great recruiter, you build a great network. One of the things that I think I'm most proud of is as a division manager and as an office owner, I've networked into, all sorts of industries. I have contacts and connections in almost any field. I can name drop people that we've worked with from different schools, universities, companies, industries. So, If somebody needs help in a certain area, I can direct them to people. I can direct them to professors. I can direct them to alumni that have worked with us that, can give them guidance and advice in different industries, people they can talk to. I pride myself in ability to make mutually beneficial connections. Hey, talk to this person. And, and I like to think because of that, 10, 15 years later, it may not come back to me in any financial form, but it will be something where people, recognize me as being a pillar of the community here. And I love the fact that, because of what I've done and where I've done, more often than not, if you talk to people about me, be like, oh yeah, that dude's, he's a pretty cool cat, or, oh, he helped me get my start in whatever field, right? Or he helped me do that. And I like the fact that, whenever I go places more long-term, people recognize, people like me because of the fact that, I've been a great recruiter. The fact that when I go to Las Vegas, I've got friends in different industries that can help, right? People that come to me and like, oh yeah, I remember you. Part of the reason they remember me is because I'm just a great recruiter. Getting people to feel good, show appreciation, all these ways, and bring people in, the right way. Okay. So, so being a great recruiter, those are the 10 big reasons. And it's one of the most powerful skills that you'll learn in Leadership Academy is how to be a great recruiter. So, from a financial component, guys, one of the things that I really want to talk about is some budgeting tips, and we may go 3 minutes over. I'm hoping we don't, but I want to give you some budgeting tips for college students. So let's see. And so some of these may be a little dated, but they're things that kind of helped me when I was coming up through school. So you got to keep in mind, like I may say some things you're like, nobody does that anymore, but pulling into the well here. All right. So the first thing and the most important one is to start with building a budget. Okay, so creating a budget. And luckily now there's actually apps for it. So you can download an app, and there's many different versions of apps that you can do. But I mean, there's tons of budgeting apps. One of the ones that I knew of was Mint. Right? You may have heard of Mint. It helps you create budgets. You can literally go online and create one. I think there's one called Budget, right? That literally is simple enough that allows you to do that. But there's other ones that are designed for more investing reasons and such. But building a budget is important. And so one of the assignments that we're going to have leaving this meeting. So we've got two, or there's going to be three total. One is watching the pre and post video that will be sent out to you later today. The second one is to make sure you take the 5 love language test. And then the third one is going to create a budget. That one will be more far-reaching, meaning it won't be due until September 7th, because what I want to do is do it over the next 2 weeks, right? I want to do a 2-week budget to try to at least create some semblance of consistency on a week in, week out basis. But and what we're going to measure for this budget are the expenses that tend to burn people the most. And that is really the second tip for you. It's food, fuel, fun, and friends. All right. Those tend to be the 4, F's that F up your budget, right? So F up your ability to create, long-term wealth. So that's what I'm going to ask you to do, is to track your expenses on those key areas. So food, fuel, fun, and friends, right? And you may be like, friends, what do you mean by that? Well, friends is, simply things that you're going to do with friends that normally you wouldn't do on your own, right? So now, fun, under the category of fun, those are things that are good fun, because there is such thing as good fun that, isn't necessary, but is helpful to help you become the best version of you. So like, for example, for me, jujitsu is fun. that's a fun expense, right? It's something that makes me a better version of me, but it does cost money, right? Going to the gym could be an example of fun if you love going to the gym. Because here's why I say a lot of people define fun as different things. Some people go to the gym because they feel like they have to, so that's not fun. But if somebody loves to work out, they tend to spend a lot of money on that sort of stuff, right? So like they'll buy clothes for working out in, they'll sign up for different memberships, they'll go to GNC or Vitamin Shop and load up on that sort of stuff for energy levels, right? I see Big John nodding his head there. Yeah, but I mean that's one of those things, right? Like I know my fitness expense, right? It's around $600 a month. Is what I spend on fitness on a month in, month out basis. Now, you should not be anywhere near that at your stage in financial development in your life. But again, that is one of those things where that's about what I spend. Okay, and I know that, and so that gets budgeted in. Another form of fun, though, that is detrimental fun are your vices. Okay, so that would be things like drinking, for example. If you drink, it would be things like vaping, if you vape. It would be things like, God, I would hope nothing pornography related, but that is an example of a vice some people have where they're spending money on that, right? So I mean, it is, some of you guys are blushing, sorry, but it is true. I mean, it's there, and some people have a problem with it. Another vice that could get in their way would be, it could be going out to bars, right? Just that alone, right? Where not so much drinking, but they like to go out, and it doesn't make them the best version of them, when they go out. Okay, so so that would be like fun that we're talking about. So good fun, bad fun. Food is it's smart to know what you're spending eating out. It's smart to know what you're spending going to the grocery store. And the goal is we start talking more about budgeting and then also energy management, we'll start to incorporate this stuff into that. And then fuel is measuring gas, right? It could be measuring gas or measuring Uber, right? That could be another example if you're Ubering everywhere. But so fuel, food, fun, and friends. So things that you would do with friends that normally you wouldn't do on your own. That could be like girlfriend, for example. If you've got a significant other, measure how much you're spending there. Because that's going to tie into some of the other little budget tips that I've got, for you. So that's one. So creating a budget. Second key is building a cushion, right? And the way that you want to build a cushion, we'll talk about this, is you want to have ideally 6, but no less than 3 months of personal expenses built up. Okay? So no less than 3 months of your personal expenses built up. And for most of you at your stage in life is if you have that budget of the 4 F's mapped out and you know how much you're spending monthly on that, if you have 3 to 6 months worth of that stuff set aside, you're probably okay. Okay. We're talking about for business owners is you want to have a campaign's worth of expenses saved plus 6 months of your personal expenses saved. So you do whatever your business expenses for 3 months are to get you through a bad quarter, so to speak, and whatever your personal expenses are for 6 months, you get that set aside and do like your emergency account before you start trying to like get crazy and invest too much in other areas. What I love about our business is that personal withholdings account, that's designed for that because it can be released whenever you need it. It goes straight into your account that you get direct deposited and you're good to go there. The next thing, so having that emergency account. Next thing is, and this is kind of a simple one, but invest your spare change. Back in the day, it used to be just always holding on to your coins and putting them in a piggy bank. Now they've got that app, like I think it's called Acorns, where you can utilize that. I know a lot of banks now will do it where they'll just round up every transaction you have and pull that into your savings account. I think Bank of America does that. I know Wells Fargo used to do it. I don't know if they still do, but it basically just, so if you have a purchase that's $29.54, it takes 46 cents and puts it into your savings. I mean, it's a little small thing. It doesn't make a massive difference, but it is a good tip for somebody just getting started. Another one, this is one I'm a big believer in, is try to eliminate, if possible, or at least minimize student loans. So eliminate, if possible, or minimize student loans. One of the smartest decisions I ever made was to work hard through college, even when I didn't need to, even though I had a lot of money saved, so that I could graduate debt free. Some of you guys are fortunate enough where your college is already taken care of. Well, keep working so you can graduate with 50 or 100 grand saved. It's even better, right? So the fifth one is set a limit for those 4 F's, right? And one of the things that I've read a lot is use cash only for the fun stuff. Meaning, things that are fun, just use cash, because then once that cash is gone, boom, you're not gonna use anymore. Dave Ramsey talks about putting out different envelopes for different areas and compartments of spending in your life, and then filling it with your paycheck or putting money into it that you get, so that way you won't spend more than that. Here's another one, a 6th one, and some people say it's bad for students to have credit cards. I don't believe that. I actually believe it's really good for students to have credit cards. But what I will say is that you need to make sure it's either got a very low limit or never carry a balance. Meaning you don't use it for daily transactions until you're running a business, because it is smart to use it when you're running a business, because you're going to have transactions that need to happen that you'll need to pay. And you might as well take advantage of the perks that you get, like building credit, getting your credit score up. We'll talk about how to do that later during TLA. But making sure that you've got credit cards that carry very little balances and or low interest rates. They actually have a lot of credit cards now that will give you an introductory 1 year of 0% interest. And what that allows you to do is kind of pay things right away, but also it builds for you to allow your credit to build. 7th one, coupon whenever humanly possible. Another thing that I like to call couponing is the nice guy discount. Always ask for the nice guy discount. It's amazing how often you'll get that. I've got discounts at all sorts of companies and things just because I've asked if there's any kind of hookup they have, right? Even companies that you would never think would give discounts, right? Lululemon is a great example of a company that doesn't give discounts really ever. There's a company, they're one of the companies where even if you get something on sale, you can't return it type thing. But by asking for the nice guy hookup, they've done all sorts of hookups for me. I get 25% off everything there. They've allowed me to exchange things that are on sale that I purchased that were the wrong size, and other things that normally they say they don't do. Just by being nice, they take care of you, right? The nice guy discount works for getting entry into health club memberships, right? And what I mean is, you don't just ask for the nice guy discount without actually being genuinely nice. But you'll be amazed by how often just simply being nice to people gets you connections, gets you hookups, allows you to get into places that otherwise you wouldn't be able to get into, get you lowered rates, get you upgraded for hotel rooms, get you priority boarding for things on airlines. But what I will say is, as you've built a rapport and connected with people, don't be afraid to ask, hey, is there any hookups we can get here on the price? Hey, is there any way you can hook me up here? Right? You get it, Willie's, Chipotle, Moe's, right? You get the nice guy hookup with extra chicken or extra food, right? So be asking for, the nice guy discount, and that will go, a long way for you. Okay. 8th one, use your student ID. If you're a student, use your student ID or student email. It works at all sorts of places. Works at Apple, works at a lot of food restaurants. Okay, use your student ID. Okay. 9th one, don't overbuy at the grocery store. Okay. I'm gonna go ahead and recommend that you never shop right after working out at a grocery store, because you will buy all sorts of extra stuff. Okay. go on your way, right? Go on your way to the groceries, on your way to the gym. If you're going super early, pick a time where after you've eaten, you then go, right? So bring food with you to eat right after you go to the gym. So that way you're not starving when you walk in. But don't overbuy and buy things that last when you do buy, right? This isn't the time to be cute and creative in your college years trying to buy all organic anything, right? There's really not that much difference in organic stuff versus non-organic stuff that matters at your age. Okay. What matters more is, consuming too much salt, too much sugar, too many, carbs and breads and stuff, right? The bad carbs, not the good carbs. But that's what matters more so than making sure something's organic or not. You get to be a little bit older, you start having, allergies and other things like that, then yeah, maybe so it makes sense. But especially when you're young, be smart there. Don't overspend. 10th one, this one's cool. For dates and for hanging out with friends, look for free events. Be in the know on things that are free or very low cost of entry to take advantage of fun stuff, right? You'll be amazed if you just type in things to do Saturday, September 7th. Boom, what pops up in your hometown or in your college market or whatever. Campuses do all sorts of free stuff for students. Communities do all sorts of free stuff for you. Take advantage. The 11th one, and this one's a smart budgeting tip, especially for those that have done their homework and done their research to find out what classes transfer. If a community college offers a class, take it there. It's going to be, way less expensive than taking it at, a high-end prestigious university. Now, part of the challenge, of course, is depending on what level you go of prestige of that university, a lot of shit won't transfer, right? Like I know that if you take certain classes in engineering programs, you try to go to tech with that engineering class, it won't transfer. You have to take it over again. Right? I know that if you go take certain math classes, it won't transfer over at UNC Chapel Hill. I know there's certain classes, if you're trying to go to Ivy League, that just, again, won't transfer. But if there's a way for you to make that work, take advantage of it. Take advantage of it. Save yourself some money. Now, even better than that is those of you that are making the decision of where to go to school, if you can go for free, it's almost always in your best interest. Meaning, to go in state with a Hope Scholarship, that is way more valuable to you in your long-term developmental future than having the prestige of saying, oh, I went to this school out of state. Right? I'll tell you, it matters way less than you think. Give you an example. When I was growing up, I got into Duke and I got into UNC Chapel Hill. Now, luckily for me, Chapel Hill had a better nightlife and more fun, social life, had a better basketball team too. And I ultimately chose to go there. But I'll tell you, if I had gone to Duke, no matter how much I had made here, based on my family's financial situation, I would not have been able to graduate college debt free. It just wasn't going to happen. I wasn't offered as many scholarships to go there as I was Carolina. It wasn't going to happen. And that would have caused me to graduate with probably $100,000 swing less, right? So instead of graduating college with 50 grand saved, I would have graduated with at least 50,000 in debt. So again, it's one of those things where that's a big difference in long-term development. And what's cool is that both schools, they're fine, right? If you're in some social circles, they would say, oh, Duke's better or whatever, as it's a higher academic school. But I'm a knife salesman, right? It doesn't matter where I went to school. I could have not gone to school and it wouldn't have mattered at all. What would have mattered is, what the sales report says and what my bank account looks like. So having that prestige of going there wouldn't have really made that big a difference, So be smart about that. If you can go in state, go free, take advantage of it. 13th, shop at cheap bargain stores. Go for bargain stores. All right, bargain stores, thrift shops, right? Buy your food and stuff at Aldi's versus going to like Publix or the fresh market, right? Always sharp for bargains. Always look online, by the way, to see if you can find something cheaper before buying it. Amazon Prime membership, subscribe, and it ships it to you for free every 3 months or every 6 months, and it could save you a ton of money. I'll give you an example. I was finding that, I was routinely buying Monster energy drinks, right? And I was like, man, this is kind of a waste. Why I keep buying them a la carte, right? For $2-3 a clip. You go online at Amazon, you subscribe, you get them every like 3 or 6 months. You can get them for like $1.50 a can, $1.25 a can. I'm not saying you should drink a bunch of Monster energy drinks. I'm just saying, like, if you find something you're spending a lot of money on, you take advantage of things like Amazon where you can subscribe and save. 15th one, guys, get good grades. If you're going to do something, do it well. Get good grades. Simple. 16th, live below your means. So once you find your budget, start getting creative to see how much you can save. 17th, cook. Meal prep. Meal prep for yourself. Okay? By meal prepping and cooking for yourself, you put yourself in a position to save yourself. I mean, for meals you would spend $6, $7, $8 a clip for, you can make for $2.50, $1 even, $1.50. And it's amazing. The food tastes just as good, especially once you learn how to cook. You'll be more impressive to social suitors, right? Meaning if you know how to cook, it's very attractive, right? Because again, you can make a baller meal for very little and be super impressive, right? I will tell you this: bottle of wine typically is 2.5 to 4 times as much in a restaurant as it is at home. And steak, not even in comparison. You'll spend 3 to 5 times as much for a steak at a restaurant as you will at home. Okay. 18th one is work. So put in work. Now, if you work consistently, 1, it keeps you out of trouble, right? And 2, it allows you to keep bringing in revenue, which is big. 19th, okay, turn off cable. There's no reason any student should ever pay for cable. You may need to pay and throw in for internet, but I think Hulu now gives you a deal, or maybe it's, I think it's Hulu, or you can get Hulu and Spotify and everything for like $5 a month if you're a student. And if you've got that, you pretty much have what you need. Find a buddy that has Netflix, right? Somebody else has already got it. So, stream from a buddy and then turn off your cable. This one's a big one. Stop smoking. Guys, I don't even know how much those Juul pods cost nowadays, but I do know that they're not cheap. And I do know that, they're not, especially if you got an addiction to them and you're using them routinely, you're putting yourself in a position where you're spending a lot of wasted money. And I will tell you that, back in the day, it was cigarettes. I had friends that were smoking half a pack a day. They were $6 a pack. I mean, they were spending $3 a day to have cigarettes. And because they were smoking cigarettes, it also caused them to do less things that made them more productive. They were the ones stepping out during study breaks to go smoke, right? Or they were the ones having to, not go to the gym as frequently because, their body just wasn't able to handle it. So I will say that's a vice that if you can kick that, you're saving. Juul pods, I don't know how much they cost, but what are they? $3 a piece, $4 a piece? I don't even know how much they are. Nobody knows. Good. I'm glad nobody knows. What's that?
Like 17.
17 for 4. I don't know how long those things last, but again, it doesn't really matter. You're addicted to a USB. It's not cool, and not in a healthy way, right? 21, guys, is be a leader in any organization that you're in. What's cool about that is when you're a leader, it comes with extra perks. Being a leader here in our organization, you get paid more. If you're a leader in your classroom, right? Meaning you're one of the leaders getting them in the best grades, they hook you up more with that. So be a leader. When you're a leader, people that are in your environment or in your organization, your mentor, they tend to take care of you better. So again, those are just simple tips to help you out. Assignment, guys, and first of all, I do want to apologize for going a little bit longer. I'll make sure I do a better adjustment of my time management skills. That is one of the skills we'll teach, is time management. I'll do a better job for next week, but coming after this, we're going to be looking for your debrief. So the debrief is 1 to 2 light bulb moments for you. 1 to 2 action steps that you've got, and 1 to 2 questions that you've got for your manager. So I would post that in WhatsApp, and also make sure to send it directly to your manager, because they're going to be the ones following up with you on the questions. So post it in the group chat for group accountability and send it individually to your manager for follow-up. 3 assignments that we've got for you. Number 1 is to take that love language test. If you've already taken it, you just look it up and take a screenshot and resend it. If you want to retake it, it takes you 5 minutes. It's not that hard. But take the love language test. The next one is to watch the video for the pre and post that we're going to send out. And then the last one, guys, is going to be to make sure you're budgeting for the next couple weeks. If you've already got it budgeted for the month, that's even more beneficial. But measure the 4 F's, which are going to be your food, your fuel, your fun, and your friend expenses. So that could be significant others. That could be just friends in general as you're hanging out with your boys or girls, right? So, guys, thank you for your time. Remember, no excuses. Play like a champion. We're going to have an amazing time building our organization together over the next several months. So, see you. Thanks, guys.